Welcome to the Chicago Bears Podcast, a presentation of ESPN Chicago, Chicago's home for sports. Here's your host, Pat, the designer.
OTAs was yesterday. Let's get to the third quarter. And I think that getting back into the football talk, it's good to see some guys back in the building. Eddie Jackson is back. Jalen Johnson back. Nate Davis is back. But we got a nugget of news yesterday that I thought really got me excited because we talked about this wide receiver core and what it could be. And we've included Darnell Mooney in that. It sounded like, at first off, in the beginning, Flus was like, Darnell's moving in the right direction and we hope to see him again. And then I'm glad they pressed him. They're like, so is he back by training camp? Yeah, we expect him back.
And that's like, you don't want to put a timeline on anybody. I understand it. Like, soft tissue injuries are one thing, but fractures and bone breaks are completely other. And when we were talking with Tyke Tolbert in early May, right around the time of rookie minicamp, it was, he's running. So it's like, okay, well, what does running mean? Like, is he, that injury happened week 12 of last year against the Jets. And so the time that it took with, post-surgery for him to like get healed and then the rehab and all of that, I think it was more just he's in the building every day. He's attacking his rehab. Like, he really wants to get back out there. And same thing with Eddie Jackson. Fortunately, in the case of Eddie Jackson with his Liz Frank, he didn't have to have surgery. Yeah. So that's a big deal, I think, for him going forward. For Mooney, though, there was no timeline placed on him then. I think that's fair. But now it's like, all right, it's June, mini camp's next week. How early into training camp? Because I don't know if you're necessarily going to be like, all right, day one, he's going to be out there, running with the team. I think that could end up being a rehab field sort of assignment. Like, you see him out there, working individually with trainers and then getting integrated back into the offense. Right. But we haven't heard anything negative about that, which I do think is like a good thing as far as him in a timeline, not necessarily knowing the exact date of when he's going to come back, but like what it looks like projecting it out.
What do you think that does for Justin Fields heading into the season? Because realistically, right, Mooney was his main guy. So I think that there's a little bit of a comfort that you get your guy back, being able to work him back in. What does that do for Justin, you think, in this offense? And we heard yesterday from Jaquan that DJ's getting the ball out here. Yeah. That's what the statement was. He's like, Tu's getting the ball.
Yeah, and that's great because everything like we talked to DJ Moore about early in OTAs was the chemistry takes some time. Like by mini camp, you should feel pretty good. And then coming back for training camp, it should be like, it shouldn't take much time to like pick it back up and get ready to go. But I think how quickly that chemistry has come to fruition and they've been able to gel is probably just because of the way that he was talking about it, DJ Moore, that is. It feels like it's maybe a little bit ahead of schedule, or maybe it's coming easier. And I think so much of that is what, people have said, especially Tyke Tolbert yesterday, that Justin Fields, like the timing is night and day from where it was last year. And that's timing with your footwork so you can sync up your throw to where your receiver is on what part of the route he's running. Right. So DJ Moore and him seem to like not have any issues with that. And you have, a quarterback who's more comfortable with the personnel around him. Of course, the offense is going to look better. Now, will this get the passing game off the ground? You really hope so. But I think like with Mooney integrating back in, there's going to still be like, he's got to catch up at some point. Fortunately, he has, the 2 seasons he's played with Justin Fields, like that sort of experience he can lean on. Like they have certain tells for each other. They have the chemistry they are already built. It's not a brand new receiver coming in. It's just, all right, like what does his acceleration look like? What does his, ability to come in and out of breaks? Like that stuff when you had a lower body injury, like how is that going to affect Mooney and what he looks like? And then Fields maybe having to adjust to anything he's doing.
I think it also helps, right, that he's going back to a position. Again, I've said this probably on every podcast out here.
I mean,
of comfort.
He's a slot receiver.
He's a slot receiver going back to the slot. And I think that opens up kind of what he did great the first couple of years we saw him that got us excited about Darnell Mooney being a major part of this team moving forward. I look at where this Bears wide receiver core can be, and I do love that I'm only hearing positive things right now. Again, it's OTAs, but remember, OTAs last year, there was a lot of like, there was a nice pass that got dropped. There was a nice pass that went through their hands. And we saw that play out in the season. I still want to see more. I need to see more, but I like that I'm hearing the connection that DJ Moore is moving in the right direction. Darnell Mooney should be back at some point based on what Flu said in training camp. And that Chase Claypool seems like he's got his life a little bit more figured out this season.
Still dealing with, I guess, it's a soft tissue injury is kind of what you can gather just from like, in talking with people that it's not, doesn't seem like anything major.
Right.
But I believe that the way that they talk about Chase Claypool is just that this is his true fresh start. Like I know coming in, it was probably more than he was ready and able to handle at the trade deadline last year. And there
he got traded and became the number one.
In the expectations of him to become that, not able to hold on to that role, not even able to
take it.
Like, I think for him, this is a good situation because he knows, all right, if I ball out in 2023, I'm getting a contract extension. They're probably 99.99999% not giving him one before that, and they should not, but he is eligible. And if you have a receiver who can become, another like DJ Moore type, the comfort blanket for a Justin Fields, you're absolutely going to pay that guy. So it bodes well for him. And I just look at this receiver room as a whole and think you want to feel good about where the offense is going from minicamp into the break and then training camp. It's not, oh man, we scraped by in minicamp. Like that's tomorrow's problem, like or down the line's problem. Like, all right, we'll see what it's like, wishing on like, throwing a Hail Mary, hoping that it looks different when you get to training camp, even though deep down it's not going to. There's not that feeling with this receiver group this year. And I think that's a very good thing for Justin Fields because he wants to be a passing quarterback. Yeah. He wants to be known for that. He wants to be able to like do the things he did at Ohio State that made him so great. And I just believe if you don't have the limitations within the people that he's throwing the ball to, that will help him become more comfortable throwing to a spot, be more comfortable. Maybe like, even with the timing, like doing things before, like he's really feeling, all right, like even if he's sensing pressure, he can still release the ball and know that DJ Moore is going to go get it, or you can trust that Mooney's, this option for you on a quick throw. And same thing with Chase Claypool fitting into this offense.
That's the difference, I think, coming into this season where every other, I don't want to say every other team, but a lot of those top teams you think about, right? Like I think about Joe Burrow last year where he literally, I think he said in the post game, he's like, how'd you see Jamar down there? He's like, I didn't. I just knew he was down there somewhere. So I just let it go. And
that's what happens. It's a byproduct of time, but that's also a byproduct of having really talented receivers.
Yeah. And knowing your system, right? You throw into a spot now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the next step for Justin. When I look at Justin Fields' game, having the receivers last year, I don't know why I keep torturing myself. I keep going back through all these like game-winning drives that didn't turn into game-winning drives. And
look at Mooney and bobbling the ball in week 6 against Washington. I mean, those are moments that if this goes according to plan for the Bears this year, you won't have those again.
Yeah. And I think that's the change that now those one-score games, now I'm looking at the Bears schedule and I'm like, these probably will be close games. These probably will be one-score games, but I can see the Bears finishing it out. And realistically, I know we don't want him to use his legs anywhere near as much as he did, but Justin Fields is still 9 times out of 10 going to be the best athlete on the field.
I mean, go back to what Matt Eberflus said that, it's just being smart about when you're going to run. And I know that like Luke Getsy kind of gave out a very vanilla answer about that yesterday when he doesn't look at it like that, about like not trying to make it so Justin Fields doesn't have to run more. They don't want Justin Fields to rush for, 1,100 plus yards. Like you don't want that from your quarterback because you're going to expose him to injury. And he's going to, it's not good for his career longevity and what you want from that position. But they're still going to utilize him in the red zone. They still might utilize him on some QB draws on third down. Like there's a lot there that you can utilize with Justin Fields. Like why would you say, okay, we can't do that anymore? You just want to be smarter about it.
And what I love about Getsy is Getsy's like, I'm not going to turn him into a robot. That statement to me, I said this to McKee yesterday. It just flashed me back to when Mitch was in the press conference and he was like, we just got to turn some of these TVs off. And you just knew that like Nagy was like, dude, stop watching what people are saying about you. Turn off the TV. And like in his brain, he's just so broken at this point. He walks in the press room. He's like, I wish we could turn some of these TVs off. I was like, you've turned him into a robot. He doesn't know what to do if you don't tell him what to do anymore. Justin is so instinctual. And I think I've said this. There are people that would rather him stand in the pocket and get his head taken off because that's what a quarterback looks like. Not in the modern NFL. I love that Justin has the instincts to be able to go, that guy's about to hit me. I'm going to move at a very fast pace.
And I mean, he has like this athletic skill set that allows him to do things that others cannot. So you wouldn't tell him, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's more just trusting what he's seeing downfield and trusting that those receivers and the pass protection, it's all got to work in sync for him to be able to complete pass plays that last year he would have tucked and run. Oh yeah.
And I'll say this, hearing Getsy talk about the offensive line in a positive manner, that they seem like they're protecting better when they're not scheming for anything that the defense is doing yet. That also goes into helping Justin stand back there and throw some passes.